Hey, and welcome to this video lesson. Today I'd like to show you how an interview with Joe Satriani that I read in one of my guitar magazines inspired me to practice scales in a completely new way, even though I actually did it quite differently from what Joe Satriani meant in that interview. In that interview, Joe Satriani said that when he was young, he practiced his scales not only in finger positions, but also in intervals, meaning in thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, and sevenths. At the time I read this interview, YouTube was still in its early days. Back then there wasn't really any video material showing how famous guitarists actually practiced, so it was difficult to fully understand what he meant by that statement. So I came up with the following 3 exercises myself, exercises that, although they don't exactly match the way Joe Satriani originally learned his scales, gave me a huge advantage when it came to learning scales and especially when it came to soloing. And as always, I'm offering you all the important diagrams and even the backing tracks from this video as a free download. Just click the link in the video description or the first pinned comment. So let's jump straight into the first exercise. In this exercise, we're going to learn our A minor or C major scale in thirds. Learning the scale this way not only makes your solos and riffs sound more interesting later on, but it also lets you combine 2 important things at once. Practicing your scale in single notes, while at the same time becoming aware of which chords each of those notes belong to. Many guitarists tend to neglect this aspect as soon as they start focusing on scales, especially finger patterns. The connection between scales and the underlying chords, or in other words, what the rhythm guitar is actually playing while they're soloing. I always teach my students to practice as many things as possible at the same time during their practice sessions, especially since most of my students don't have the time to practice for several hours a day. So when you learn your scale, like in the following exercise, you're also training yourself to associate every single note with its corresponding minor or major chord. This will make it much easier for you to play the right notes over certain chord progressions. Let's start here on the low E string with our note F. Play that one with your pick and then play its major third A with your middle finger. Of course, you can also play both notes using only your pick. However, using hybrid picking gives you the opportunity to later play some really cool sounding runs, just like you heard in the intro. Next, we move on to the note G and play its major third B. Then comes A and its minor third C, B and its minor third D, C and its major third E, D and its minor third F, and then E and its minor third G. At the beginning, it's perfectly fine if you only practice this exercise up to the 12th fret. Later on, you can go beyond the 12th fret as far as your fingers comfortably allow. Before moving on to the next 2 strings, I recommend combining all the notes you've just played, both forward and backward, while also applying the hybrid picking technique. At first, it's enough to try this without a metronome or backing track, just to get oriented. After that, it's a good idea to look at which notes you should target when improvising or jamming over a single chord, for instance. If you take an A minor chord, for example, you notice that when we play our scale in thirds, we can not only target A and C, but also C and E, since those 2 notes represent the chords minor third and fifth. I'll now play a short improvisation for you over an A minor chord backing track. With the help of the downloadable diagrams, you can now learn all the remaining strings as well. Pay special attention when you get to the G and B strings. Here, the thirds shift up by a half step because the B string in relation to the G string is tuned a major third apart, not a fourth like the strings below. That means our minor thirds will look like this, as in the case of A and C, and your major thirds will look like this, as in C and E. Once you've got all these intervals down, grab the simple A minor and C major backing tracks from the download section and start by playing a few easy improvisations over those two chords. For C major, the same idea applies. You can not only target C and E, but also E and G, since those are the third and fifth of the C major chord. As your next step, you should move on to fourths and fifths. Practicing both intervals together is especially recommended because your improvisations will sound best later when you combine them. Also, practicing fourths is particularly easy since they are always located directly above the notes you're playing, except for the note F, where you need to play an augmented fourth and finger it slightly differently. Let's go through the E and A strings together. So we'll start with the exception. Here's F and B, which is F's augmented fourth. Then we move on to G and C, A and D, B and E, C and F, D and G, and then E and A. Here are our fifths, F and C, G and D, A and E. Here's the exception for fifths, B and its diminished fifth, F, then C and G and D and A. Before you learn all the other strings, start by improvising only with these intervals over the two backing tracks. After some time you can then add the thirds back in, and then your runs will sound even more interesting, and you'll also have two new note targets available. When you play fifths, you can target A and E over A minor and C and G over C major. Now take your time to work on the other strings, and as you gain more experience, on multiple chords as well. If you feel that all this takes a lot of time and maybe even feels a bit overwhelming, just think back to when you first learned your finger patterns. Some of you might still be in that learning phase even now. Fully understanding the fretboard, not only through shapes, but also in terms of actual notes, takes many years of practice. You should simply be very patient and keep repeating both your finger patterns and the scale intervals to deepen your understanding. It's also a great idea to occasionally compose a solo yourself. Just start applying the technique and you get a clearer sense of how it sounds once you've truly mastered this way of playing. Finally, let's take a look at sixth. You've probably already encountered runs like these on the higher strings. They're pretty much part of the standard repertoire of every rock, blues, metal, country and funk guitarist. But what very few guitarists practice as intensively as sixth on the top four strings are the same types of runs on the lower strings. Let's go through the E and A strings again. Here we have F and its major sixth D, G and its major sixth E, A and its minor sixth F, B and its minor sixth G, C and its major sixth A, D and its major sixth B, E and its minor sixth C. These note combinations not only inspired me to come up with interesting solo runs, but also when it came to writing cool riffs or combining some of them with chord progressions, especially using power chords. When you learn these, start by focusing only on A minor and C major again, and on the following notes that you can target with both chords. There are several possibilities here as well. For A minor, you can target C and A, and E and C. For C major, you can target E and C, and G and E. And finally, try playing runs that combine thirds, fourths, fifths, and sixths. It'll probably take quite some time before this feels completely natural, but as you already saw in the intro, this will greatly expand your own playing style and allow you to create runs that no one else plays quite the same way. That's it for this video. I hope you had fun and learned a lot. Please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos. I'll see you again in the next one. Until then, bye.